Well, I just got out of Sam Raimi's latest flick. If by latest I was talking from 1987. I just saw Evil Dead 2 for the first time in the big screen. I mean, I've seen this several times. I'm currently still in the underground car park at undisclosed location that is Event Cinemas in Whitfords. Yeah, I guess I'm just wanting more content for this time, but I'm also, I have thoughts about this movie. It's been a long time since I've watched it. I mean, of the Evil Dead trilogy, I've probably seen I've probably seen Army of Darkness the most. No, I just pro statistically. But I've seen Evil Dead 2 so many times as well. I've probably seen Evil Dead 1 the least amount of times. I freaking love this film. And spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen this movie, because it's like, almost, well, it's over 30 years old. It's 33 years old. It's almost 40 years old. So for those who haven't seen Evil Dead 2, what the hell's wrong with you? I got a little bit of a thingamajig there. It's bounce slide. Bit of special effects for you. In the future, generations of people will be watching this YouTube channel wondering how he managed to make the green light appear. This is essentially a soft remake of Evil Dead, which in and of itself was a hard remake of Into the Woods. Cabin in the Woods. So the brief history. Sam Raimi and his pals, Bruce Campbell and Robert Tappert, were aspiring filmmakers, and they decided to create a short horror film, in hopes of getting enough interest to make a feature film, short, low-budget feature film. And that movie was Cabin in the Woods. It was all self-funded, I believe. I can't remember how long. It's been so long since I've seen it. And it got them enough interest for someone to pony up some money for a feature, I think. God, it's been a while. It's really been a while. I'm trying to do it on memory, and it's at night. It's like, it's screen o'clock because I can't see the time and my engine's off. I better turn my lights off. And that got Evil Dead 1 made. It was very much a low-budget horror film. It even had some pretty, now in hindsight, pretty bad exploitative points to it. But on the whole, it essentially gave Raimi and Campbell the kickstart to their career. Then Raimi would eventually make a couple of other films, and they essentially got together to make Evil Dead 2. And Evil Dead 2 is, as much as a continuation, it's also a soft reboot. It continues the story from Evil Dead 1, but it also has a recap which changes around story elements. No major biggie. But this is also a movie where they put in a sequel hook. I mean, essentially, it ends with, if you've not seen the film, it's about a guy who is being assaulted, driven crazy by a evil demonic force. His name is Ash from Housewares, although that's not revealed to the third movie. Ash Williams. I'm not sure who's the least useful hero in an action film. It's a toss-up between Ash Williams and Jack Burton of Big Trouble in Little China. I almost said Little Shop of Horrors. That's because I went little in time in brain. I think Evil Dead 2 was a lot more successful than Evil Dead 1, but they still had to wait to get money and interest to make Army of Darkness, which was about, let's say, 5 years after this one. I could check my phone, just that I can't recall it myself. It's got to be 1992, 93, roughly about that time. it's fair to say these were not big box office success, but they were very much cult films. And Army of Darkness very much became a huge cult film, especially in the age of the internet. Like, people responded very positively and it became very mimetic. Like, especially when you have like a game like Duke Nukem 3D, who parodied a lot of the lines. He would say "groovy," "Hail to the King," and things like that. Chainsaws. This probably movie more than anyone else really solidified the idea of. I mean, okay, chainsaws existed in horror for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but there's something about the chainsaw in this movie that it becomes almost a character in and of itself. It's not just the implement. There's the crazy scene where it becomes that, Ash gets it attached to his hand, and that becomes so iconic. And I think the Ash chainsaw and Ash probably are more iconic than Chainsaw and Leatherface. That's a hill I'm probably going to die on. Yeah, the first Chainsaw Massacre movie is alright, but never really stuck with me, that franchise. I know it's got its fans. Anyway, so it's been a while since I've watched this. It's probably been close to 10 years since I've actually sat down and really sunk my teeth into the Evil Dead trilogy. I saw Army of Darkness a couple of years ago, interactive on a big screen, over at the Luna, probably about 2-3 years ago. No, it's probably about 3, yeah. So when this came up, I would love the chance to see Evil Dead 2 on the big screen. And it really works. We was in the smaller screens, and okay, you know what? I'm never coming back to event cinemas. At least not if I can help it, to sit in the cheap seats, because my back is freaking killing me. Everyone was in there because they've got these spring-loaded. Okay, so they've got the old style cinema seats where the bottom folds up, which fucking suck when you want to try and put something on a seat, because it just slips through the crack. What's worse is that. So that's the. So that's the. So its folding seat is that. So that folds. Yep. You get it. And this is the back of the seat, which is spring loaded. So it's always doing that. So you lean back. There's no tension to it. So it's one of those things where you can rest on it and it would stay up. But if you want to lean back, you probably like, that wouldn't be so bad. But no, there's like no tension. It's like you sit down and it just goes that. That was the only thing that was sucked about this experience, was the fucking seats were just mind-bogglingly shite. I've never had that with the VMAX seats at events. The last time I was in a cheap seat at an event cinema was Lego Movie 2, and I just thought my seat was broken. No, it just turns out those are the seats. No, fuck it, not watch that again. I'll go to the Grand. If I'm going to go for a cheap movie, I'm going to go to the Grand or Reading in Belmont. No, fuck that. I'm not going back to events on a cheap seat. I don't care what movie it is. It could be, they could be replaying fucking Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or any Spider-Man movie except for The Amazing Spider-Man 1, 2, and Spider-Man 3. Wow. Speaking of Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi. So this was Sam Raimi's third or fourth directorial movie. It could be the third. I think Evil Dead 1. There's another one in between. I think this might be the third one. And what I loved about watching this is, like, this feels like very much a young filmmaker going through his experimental phase and experimented with camera angles, lens effects, like the stretching and all that. But it's all done to aid the story. Like, the Dutch angles are when things are going crazy, so it's really makes it off-putting. The shaky cam is there to use to be unnerving. This wasn't just, I'm just doing this because I think it's fun. it was done for a reason. So yeah, it was actually weird to. I've been doing a lot of film analysis lately. You may have seen. Well, if you've not seen my, you've may have seen my Kung Pao into the minute. But more importantly, if you may have seen or may have heard, if you've not, go and check out 60 Seconds to Comply on my sister channel. Just Google 60 Seconds to Comply. I'll try and put a link down below. But getting into the nitty gritty of studying cinematography and things like that, and my brain was switched on to all that. So it was interesting to see, because Raimi has always been a very visually interesting director. I mean, he was the guy who essentially cinematically set Spider-Man in stone. He had the whole setting the camera on a track to mimic Spider-Man swinging through the city. And, his visual style, his humor is well throughout this. There's one thing that kept coming to mind is I don't believe directors should abuse their actors. I just flat out just don't believe that should be a thing. Except when it comes to Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. It's so good how Bruce Campbell his physical humor and his motion, and even something as absurd as selling a demonically possessed hand that's attacking himself, and it's just the right amount of cheese. It's also effective if you've never seen this movie before. There is still a sense of danger. If you haven't seen this movie before, it's a good horror film. If you have seen this movie before, it's also a fucking good film. It's a comedy. It's still got all these good layers to it. You know what's coming, but you also know that it's behind every horror moment. There's comedy. There's humor. It's one of those great balanced acts in regards to filmmaking. Horror and comedy are very simpatico in regards to telling a funny story, telling a good story. You can be scared, or you can also have a laugh. You can laugh off the scare. I tend to laugh off the scares. I find them more hilarious than I do find horrific. And that's not to say, I laugh at disturbing stuff. I have black humor in my veins, but the thing that tends to disturb me is the stuff that's not meant to be, it's horrific but not meant to be portrayed as horrific. It's people who do terrible things and try and think they do really horrific things, try to pretend that it's comedy. And we're not getting into politics because it's only a few days away from a major election in a different country, and that's not what we're here for. And that's the true horror of 2020. And that's the thing. We joke about COVID around here. We still take it a little bit seriously. I'm in a part of the world where it's safe to even be doing this, to walk around with a gigantic beard and no mask. It's safe to go to a cinema. We were also in a cinema there were 6 people in there. We could social distance, but that could have been a packed house, and we probably would have been there. I don't know what the actual cinemas have been like, because the last few movies I've been to... Oh, no, I have been to a almost fully packed cinema for watching Akira a couple of weeks ago. So the restrictions have pretty much been fully lifted, except for the hard border. That's a problem for future Perth, is when we might finally get a second wave, depending on what happens when border restrictions. This is going to be a short one. I just thought it's fun to get a vlog out and talk about a movie I generally love. There's got to be an Evil Dead minute by minute review out there. I'm not taking on another one. I've got 2 in the works as it is. I don't have time for another one. But it was really great just to, having not watched this movie in a good while, just really good to revisit this. I might finally get the mega edit I've always wanted to do, which was to cut Evil Dead 1, 2, and 3 into one seamless narrative. I do think it can be done. It's not just top and tailing each movie. I want it to be a full flowing narrative. And I think I know where the edit points are. I've been thinking this for, say, 15 years, as soon as I learned how to edit. But I've not really had the confidence. I've also not had the computing power, especially now. Like, I've got Evil Dead 1. I think I've got Evil Dead 1 and 2 on Blu-ray. I don't think I might have Evil Dead 3, but I've got like several copies of Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness on DVD. The other problem is that Army of Darkness, it's sacrilegious to say, but I think I prefer the international version. So that's the question: do I go with the UK version or the international version, or a mixture of both? Because I think the only version I've got of the international version is also the director's cut with the alternate ending on DVD. I really should get the Blu-ray, but I really want to get the international cut more than I want the US cut. I might just have to buy the bullet and get it just so I can do this edit. Because there's jokes I liked in my original version I watched. The Australian release, controversial, but one of the things that also pissed me off about the US edition and subsequent editions is they cut out the love scene between Ash and... oh god, my brain is just not working at the moment. Either way, they cut out the love scene, which I actually think worked to embolden our connection, because I think they also cut out the thing of where Ash goes, she goes, what about all those things you said to me when we were making love? And he just goes, that's what we call pillow talk, baby. It's a great gag, and I think they cut that out. So there's a lot of things that are really good they cut out of the international one, but there's some of the gags that are maybe a bit tighter. Like a lot of the other big significantly different scene is the windmill scene. I think is a bit better, because there's also the two versions of good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun, and I ain't that good. And I kind of prefer I ain't that good. I mean, they're both really good strikes. Yeah, these are the decisions you have to make when you're trying to do dumb shit like string together 3 movies together. That I've got the third movie is just a clusterfuck of different fucking versions. But that's potentially for another video. Anyway, I should see about going home and getting out my Stealth Ash cosplay. It's literally the only long sleeve blue shirt I had. It's a bit dark, but it's nice and satiny. It's a really nice shirt. I should wear it often. And my greenish brown pants. Oh, must have been able to do. So I bought a screen accurate chainsaw, as in the unmodded version. I got it for like $80 off Gumtree with postage. About when I was running my business, so it must be like 3 years ago. It's been in a box ever since. I've been just never got around to it. And I would love to gut it. My goal was always been to gut it, make some molds of the shell, modify the mold, the castings of the mold, so I can put the original back together, and I can keep that as a template for future molds, and then finally make my Evil Dead chainsaw. Anyway, it's getting late, so I'm going to head off home, but check out the other videos. I don't do this half enough in these things, but check out my other videos. Check out Kung Pao into the Minute. Check out 60 Seconds to Comply. Like, share, subscribe, all that other shit. But otherwise, keep it spoopy.